Hi, everyone. This is Queenie Clem, and today I have the pleasure of having Author Elliot Howard on the show. Hi, good afternoon. How you doing? How you doing?
Great. How you doing, Queenie?
I'm doing great. Now tell us about Mr. J. Elliot Howard.
Well, what can I say? I'm a dad. If you see, you'll see one of my titles walking around that made me a dad. He's over there somewhere in the corner. And then I got an older brother. I got an older son, and a wonderful wife. And been writing since I was 16. And I just but I'm also active in the community. I do work with several community organizations, Man Alive, the Ephraim Foundation, Services Cooperative Association, and I'm hosting my own podcast called Millennial Money Management, part of the Tribe Family Channel.
Mhm.
Talk about everything with personal finance, that from entrepreneurship to taxes to laws, industry leaders, politicians, you name it. There's not one thing that happens in life that doesn't have something to do with money. So it's good to know how to manage your money through it all. And talk to people that actually know what they're doing. See, there's one of the come up he's right there. His name is Walter. So several years back when I got started in writing, it started on the fact that I tried to quote poetry and pass it on as my own to impress a young lady when I was 16. That's right, I'm owning it. And she tried to do it over the phone, so she definitely could not be able to tell that I was reciting it. I was like, I
Mhm.
polished it up. She said she called me out on it and said it was nice recitation, and I was like, you know what, I can write my own. And then from there, it just went from there. And about a few years back, as my had a two wonderful grandmothers, and one of them had gotten really ill, and I started writing poetry to her just because I couldn't get to her. She was on the other side of the country, and I had other family that was there, and other responsibilities, like I said, dad, husband, and job and career. I was like, I just couldn't just get there like I wanted to, where everybody else could. I would send I would send poems to her to comfort her, to let her know that I'm with her, and remind her that the stuff that we have been through together. I still remember when I was his age, like the little one was walking around me right now, to at the time that she was getting ready to pass, and they comforted her, and as well as because my sister and other family members would read what I would write to her, and so I was like, I need to go ahead and just get this party started, and because I had one grandmother left, and so the challenge was to get the book out, get published, and also want to set that example for my kids. That is, it's not about making money; it's about what you're passionate about, and it's about
Yes.
like I think it's important for I think men get a bad rap for not being able or not communicating effectively, and because that wasn't always the case in society, men were known for being able to communicate effectively. I think poetry is one of those ways, and because of all the influences that came through me in poetry and just in communication, family life, and the like, I the poetry displays that, and so it's not just being able to talk angry. Sometimes the only time you hear men talk is when they're angry. Finally, someone has hit that last nerve, and now you're talking, but you're only talking angry. What about talking lovingly? What about having just an eloquent conversation? This is the thought that's
Yes.
in your head. You can be offended and not be ticked off. Why is it that you not notice? A lot of even what has always impacted me or affected me was going into even spoken word poetry slams, and everybody just seems so angry. What if let's talk about something. I mean,
Yeah.
or hypersexual, or someone said, like, you know what? Majority of our lives is not hypersexual, and not because when you're angry all the time, you need Jesus and you need Dr. Phil. Like, get that out of you. Well, there's other things to talk about. I think it's important to represent that, and so went into that, and it's just built from there, and so I love that part of it. It's one of the many facets that make my life interesting.
Why is poetry important?
Well, I think poetry is important because it forces your mind to stretch, And as I alluded to earlier, being able to effectively communicate. There's multiple styles of poetry, and it's not just the free verse that's really popular, and I'm alluding again to spoken word or the open mic nights where you hear them. When you have to sit there and think about what you're going to say and how you want to say it to paint that effective picture for the whoever's reading, and the style that you write. And like for me, frankly, I like writing poetry in a first person scenario. I know that some people do this, but for me, I think it's important because if you're the reader, you can put yourself in that position. And because I'm always painting a story and telling a story. I'm from a family of storytellers, both on my mom's side and my dad's side. My mom's side is heavily Native American. Like we have a tribe in southeastern Ohio, and we're descendant of the Ohio Sioux, which marks up the Cherokee and the Saponi tribe nation. And you get amongst them, they have stories to tell, and it's done poetically. And you need to trace history of the family, legacy, and you do it that type of way. Because poetry used to be a whole lot more than what it is now. It used to relay news, because there's a lot of memory devices inside writing a poem that if you master it, it makes it easier to remember any type of information in order to relay the news of what's going on. And so it's just I love painting pictures with words, and poetry is that great vehicle to do it.
Okay. How does a poem begin for you? With an image or with an idea?
Both. It depends on what has heavily impacted me. Or like sometimes I could be sitting and holding the little one, and I just start thinking of something I might want to say to him that I want him to remember over time as he gets older. Dad said this word to me, and it could be like, I will always love you. Write it on your heart, the tablet, make it plain. That when I say that, when you think of me, I'm saying your name, know that you're always with me, and I will be with you. If you walk with this, my words will be with you to the end, knowing that your dad embraced you with all the love that he ever had. And doing that and creating that challenge, and it makes sense. Or it could be just a simple fact, like, look, the political landscape is in this country is really motivating in a sense of the people are at each other's throats, and I am emotionally in touch with what's going on, and so it can relay is a way of for me then at that point how am I connecting with it. And sometimes it's not for everybody. It's just the fact of like I might write something for myself just so I can remember this is what was done, this is what was said, this is the current climate, and this is where I am with it. This is my position. And just so I make it clear for myself. So if I'm ever asked over an difficult discussion, because some people talk for the sake of talking, and they think that they're feeling this particular way, and then they keep on talking, then they stumble over themselves because what they first initially presented is not actually how they really feel. They're actually on this other side of the fence. And I'm like, see, you shouldn't have said anything at all. Get your thoughts together before you come out and say something. And poetry allows me to do that too.
Okay. What prompted you to begin writing poetry?
Well, as I alluded to in the beginning, it was a mixture of things. It was one, when I came down to Houston, I didn't start writing till I came to Houston in '93. And I was by myself, basically. My family had a job transfer, and I didn't know anyone. And so I love to talk, but I didn't have anyone to communicate with on a daily basis. So I struggled with what could I do? And so there was this young lady that I really liked, and I was in my English class, and we were doing a whole thing about poetry, and I thought that some of the stuff that was being discussed was really on point. She seemed to be into some stuff like that, and I really liked her while I was trying to impress her. So I went ahead and my dad had this big book of poetry anthology, and I wanted something short and sweet to the point that I could remember and do smoothly, and I could pass off like it was my own. It was like, because, and so I tried, and she realized she was nice, she was polite, and she knew I was trying, and so she stayed at the end. That's a nice recitation. And that hurt my pride. It's like, okay. I felt low because a couple of fronts like, well, she called me trying to fraudulently claim something as my own. 2, I tried to fraudulently claim something as my own. 3, why is it I can't just write something on my own? I'm like, let me go ahead and start doing something on my own. And so then, and this is the real fun thing about poetry. It makes, when you really are trying to do it, it makes you get in touch with where you are on the subject matter that you're trying to write about. If you know nothing, nothing will come out. If you feel a certain, if you want to talk about, and at that point, 16, 17 years of age, I had no idea. There's really, let's be real. I mean, I know that there are plenty of 16 or 17-year-olds. I was there. Guys, we swear we're in love with whoever we're dealing with. We have no idea what love is. And when I kept on trying to write something about love, there was nobody remotely around me that I could think of romantics, because that just wasn't my thing. But you know what? I did love my mom. I still love my mom. And so I wrote a poem about her. And it is actually in Rewritten Lives, the very first poem I ever wrote.
Hold that thought. We'll get to the book in a minute, because I'm telling you, I got some questions for you.
All right.
About some of those poems. What is the relationship between your speaking voice and your written voice?
Oh, wow. Now, at my age now, they're one and the same. At the time, some of the poems that I wrote, poetry slowed my speaking voice down. See, because back also during that time, because of the move and everything that was going on, I had a I stuttered. And it wasn't because I had some mental issue or something like that. It was because of the fact that I was nervous, I was shy, I was hurt that I had moved. I didn't have anyone. It's like I felt basically alone, and I self-imploded. So it would take me, if I wanted to ask you for a glass of water, it would take me 2 minutes to ask you for a glass of water because my stuttering was that bad. So I was like stepped on falling into myself. So like, you know what, instead of just asking you to the point that even though the glass of water was right next to you and I could have just asked, because I didn't have confidence in myself to speak it clearly to ask you, I'll just get up and get the glass of water myself and just walk on. And I had plenty of people would tell me, would confront me and say, Elliot, you could have just asked me. And I'm like, yeah, but I couldn't. Yeah. So now it's one in the same. Yeah, everything is slower. Everything is take your time, ease it out, well thought, and whatever I'm speaking on to that point only, and then leaving it right there after I said my piece.
Okay. How did you get started as a poet?
Well, after trying to impress a young lady and then coming out and writing a poem that which is now in Rewritten Lives, I would continue. And when I went to the University of Houston, I'd written several, but they were always short. And then there's another woman involved. Finally forgot her name, and I showed her some of the stuff I'd written, and she was like, "Oh, they're really sweet and quaint, really sing-songing," which completely just. I don't want to be known for writing sing-songy poems. That's not who I am. So then that completely set me over the edge on the inside. It's like, I can do better. So let me go ahead and really go headlong into it. So then the poems that would ultimately go into what would be known as you have Rewritten Lives, a good portion of them are poems that came after that discussion with her. And I really started going hard on after, because and what then I started drawing from in my work, and there probably was a lot of hinting. There's a lot of spiritual innuendo in it, because I grew up a church kid. My mom and dad are both, even though my dad was an executive, he's also a ordained minister. So was my mom. I had a pastor who was my mentor growing up. He mentored me up until he passed a couple years ago. And when I was 2 and 3 years old, from that time, I was always in the church and always had some older person pouring into me that way. And it really is true because I've lived it. You raise a child that way, when they get old, they really will not depart from it. I found myself in Pittsburgh, away from everybody at that point, finishing up at University of Pittsburgh for my undergrad. And I wrote several poems that I tried my best to not have any biblical innuendo into it, not mention Jesus whatsoever, you name it. Just tried to no one's gonna know because I'm in Pittsburgh and no one knows me, and I'm gonna finally get this opportunity in my life to just be something entirely different than what I've always known. Mm-hmm. So I wrote the poems, and I remember I went to the most wild place on campus, and everybody was going around. They were smoking, they were drinking, whatever like that. And I was like, "Here, try this poem out." And this dude, he had a cigarette in one hand, or what I think was a cigarette. Something was lit, and he was right in a glass of something else in his hand. He's reading it, and he sat his stuff down and was reading it, and he was like, "You're a Christian, aren't you? You love Jesus." I'm like, I pulled up and said, "Where in this are you getting this conclusion?" I'm saying, I can't act like I couldn't deny it. I'm raised not to lie. I can't lie. But I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, yeah, I go to church. I went to another person, right? Other side of the plaza. They said the exact same thing. Ended up being 5 other people. And I'm sitting there what is this? I'm away from everybody. Mom and dad's nowhere near me. They somewhere else. And there's nobody else because I was in Houston. I grew up after Findlay, Ohio, been down to Houston from 93 to 98, and then went up to Pittsburgh. And look, there's nobody that's close to me at all. Nobody knows my name. I'm a picture on a wall frame somewhere else. And still in the middle of nowhere with strangers that have never met me. This is the only time I'm ever going to talk to them. And they still were able to pull the fact that wow, this is in me throughout. I'm like, dear God, you're really never going to leave me alone. You're never going to leave me alone. Even when I try my best to be away from you, not even I'm not denouncing you, but I'm not putting you out there like me and you are like buddies. Still show up in the midst of everything. Put your arm around me yeah, this is my wingman. Hi, I'm God. No, fool, you're not getting away from me. You're not getting away from me. I've been with you from the beginning. I'm here in the midst of everything. And folk might not even be praying for you. I don't need people to pray for you for me to be in your life. I'm here.
Yes.
Just accept it. And it'll be easier for both of us.
Yep.
And what part of if you make your bed in hell, I'm still going to be there. This ain't even hell, son. This ain't even hell.
Bingo. When did you become confident enough to say, I am a poet?
Oh, there was a Generation Jesus event that happened here in Houston. Massive event, thousands of people. And prior to that event, I had written poems for friends and done some little things here and there at the campus of U of H, but nothing anybody would know me. Nothing declarative I'm writing. Everybody needs to know that I'm writing. And so then somebody, I don't know how this has been so long ago, I don't know how way late on the way, but I got asked to do a poem at this massive event. And so I did it. And after I got done, I had people lining up after I got on stage, folk giving me hugs, grown men crying, they give me hugs and they hugging on me and they crying. And I was I don't know what to do with it. I'm 19 years old and I'm I'm not ready for this. I'm like, I mean, big burly Texas men, you know, the cowboy hat.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, and I'm not with anybody at the time because I was happily, blissfully single, and I was trying to avoid all craziness. I wasn't like reclusive. It just was like, I just let me just go to school and do my thing. That might be for everybody else. It's just not me. So, but men, women, pastors' wives, other ministers that were in attendance, and they were like, "Yeah, we need to have you come back again." And then instead of being other things that were happening that this organization was doing, and I would show up and do some poems there, and that's when I definitively was like, I can write.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came back to, going back to Pittsburgh, being in a completely different environment and doing some work there, and with a completely different audience, and the result was the same. Okay, this isn't a fluke. Even though there's some transitions that were made because as you get older and you learn other things and other things influence you, that's going to influence what comes out of you as you write. And that happened, but the confidence kept on building because that just seemed to be in my element.
Okay. Well, here's the book. And as you can see, I have sticky noted on different pages.
Okay.
And I just want to go through, but first I'm going to let you talk about the cover and the title.
Okay.
We're going to go walk through it.
Okay. Well, it's actually the second cover because it got reissued. But it's still, the concept is the same. The original cover was this one here. And the original one. That was when it first came out. And then something happened there was a dispute or something. And so the one that you have, that's cover number 2. When there was a re-edit, second issue came out, the new cover came out. But the concept of of what looks like a sunrise or a sunset goes with where the book's title goes to, Rewritten Lives. We're always in a state of being rewritten. Because it's sunrise or sunset, and both covers you can tell it's kind of rather ambiguous because it's either you can't tell whether it's a sunrise or a sunset. It's either, but you're in a place of either it's an ending or it's a beginning. There's always that cycle of life because we're grown. We're not babies anymore. There was a time that we were babies, and we need to be picked up and carried. We needed to be fed instead of us feeding ourselves. But we're not like that anymore. Yeah, you know. But that's not the only thing. I mean, there was a time where we couldn't ride bicycles, but then now we do. And then that was the thing. But then, like, once you can drive a car, you don't really need to ride a bicycle anymore. Then you get a certain age, the doctor tells you need to walk more. So then you're not supposed to be driving the car or riding a bicycle. You're supposed to be taking a walk. So, but there's all cycles of change, and it's not that serves as an example, but it's a whole process. But in the cycle of the change, this is where Rewritten Lives comes in. Is like that's that flow where it's notes along the way of the journey, because it's the thing. First, you got to know that you need to change, and then there's an event, something happens, and where it signals in your head and your spirit that how you presently are is not what it needs to be to confront what you're going to confront. And so you need to adapt. So you need to change. It's going to be an evolution that's going to have to come about. You either change or you fall over. And I alluded to the fact of the poems that I wrote to my grandmother. She had been diagnosed with a type of breast cancer that women of color need to be concerned with. This is kind of, when I get interviews, I bring this fact up. They didn't have any symptoms. The doctor thought it was a bruise. And if you're a woman of color, there were no lumps. There was no anything that say that you need to get checked out. This is actually his breast cancer. So even the doctor was fooled. And by the time the doctor found out, did a test, it was in the final stage, and there were tumors everywhere. And a couple months later, after she was diagnosed, she was gone. And so I tell every woman, get a blood test as quickly as possible. Yeah, forget all this other stuff. I'm not saying don't do the other things, but do this as well. And you owe it to yourself. So there's my public service announcement for the day. But it also served, like the poems that were sent to her, serve as the prologue for the book Rewritten Lives. That was a significant event, a loss of a loved one. So then as the whole thing of letting go of who you are, and that, which, in my case, letting go of that, she can't come back, right? So it's the process, of letting go. Then you realize what that process is going to be. And then there's that fight amongst yourself of it's a fight between who you are and what you need to be. And that's where, like, the chapter in the middle of the book, Seasons of Darkness, comes into play, because that's a battle scene. The battle of just like change that needs to come through. And then you come out of that, because you don't stay there. You find and when you come out of that, then in coming out of that, you start to learn what your new passions are. Because when you go through a change, what you used to love before, you don't like now. The things that we used to tolerate before, we don't tolerate now, right? And so you have to acknowledge that, because then when you acknowledge that, then everybody else around you has to acknowledge the change as well. Of course, when you decide that you're going to make that change, that forces everyone else in your environment to have to adjust, or they get pushed to the side, because you got to adjust and change. And so then for that, you realize in the end, it was all part of the cycle of testing. This is this old biblical scripture that talks about the man looks on the outside, but God tries the spirits. You know what? God tests you to try your own spirit. It's not because God doesn't see who you are or what you're becoming, but for you to be totally engaged through everything. You got to know what's going on with you. So then you can pair up spiritually and really be engaged with it as you're becoming the new creation that you are going to become, whatever that may be. And so that's where Rewritten Lives, that's the concept of the title, that's the concept of the sunrise, sunset. It's either an end or it's a beginning.
Okay. Well, let's walk through the book. Let me get my glasses right. Okay. You got note from the author. And in that last two sentences, writing our lives as constant as change in life. These poems are notes from a class. And I think that was a metaphor for life is like a classroom.
It is.
So I got it.
Yes, you got it.
I told you, I was digging deep. I really liked that. And then the next poem, the first poem you write is, do you remember?
Yes.
What I said on that was, let me take my sticky note out. I said, your ode to your grandmother was more like an ode to a mother or one of my aunts in my adult life. So that ode was to your grandmother, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In my life right now, that will be one of my aunts, because my mother, but she's deceased. But that will be to one of my aunts in my adult life right now. So I could relate to that poem right now.
Okay.
So I understood that one. And then my turn now. I said, you are talking about you as a young person getting help from a parent. Now that you're a parent, has the table turned?
Well, yeah. In this situation, I was talking to, this is a poem I wrote to my grandmother, and I was relating the fact that, when I was a kid, grandparents hold a significant role. I mean, if you're young enough, you talk about you have your grandbabies, right? So you're holding their hands, you change their diaper, you walk with them, you help them walk to learn to walk till they can't. With the first few years of walking, they're struggling to walk, stay upright. They trip over the smallest little thing, and they get to that, they get bigger and they get stronger, like you see in my little one right now, right? And then they get to a point where they don't need us for anything except for maybe until they know everything until they realize that they don't need it until they don't know everything, right? They're like, okay, well, you talk to me, and then so, but we're getting older, right? And in this case, so I was a boy, I was a little kid, a baby, a boy, man, and then as my grandmother's gotten older, and then it becomes my turn to be the person that slows down so she can walk with me. It's my turn because she's sick. I'm the one that takes care of her. Because she's unable to make the phone call. I'm the one that initiates the phone call.
Yes.
Call and check on her. Because if she's the one that needs prayer, I'm the one that prays. I'm the one that lays hands on her, right? And do whatever it is. Just like when I was a baby, she did whatever she could to make sure that I was taken care of. Guess what? It's my turn now, and I'm acknowledging that if I could have been there to her face and told her to her face, I would have. But this was the best I could do.
True.
But to let her know that I was praying for her. As she was going through the biggest pain in her life. And so it was enough to let her know that you got somebody that, while everybody else said, I'm not present with you, but I'm still thinking about you and that I love you. And it's my turn now. I think that it's important for the grandkids. I see so many senior citizens where the grandparents support so much of the grandkids' lives, and the grandkids get to a certain point where they just feel like too cool to be around the grandparents. And whatever you might feel about them, and they weren't perfect enough, okay, but they did everything they could to make sure that you're all right, you're here, aren't you? So whatever you could do, you at least let them know. And so I still remember it was after that wrote the poem and she was read it, and I was trying my best to put money together to come to see her. And my family was saying she's not going to be here when you get here. Don't do it. And she got on the phone. And she told me that it was okay. You know how much, it wasn't like she was trying to hurt me. It was her best way to comfort in the end. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thanks for being transparent. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what that poem entails.
Okay, next one, forever is not enough. And I said, did your grandmother ever move away, or what does grandma mean to you? Just acknowledge that to me. That was my next question for that poem.
She was an awesome grandmother. I wish you could have met her.
But you moved away for college.
Yeah, but you know what the interesting twist was? The interesting twist was I came back to graduate school. Bowling Green State University was maybe 10 minutes from her house. And I was a graduate assistant. And your older grandkids will know this when they get to the age that I was when I was doing this. I'm about 21 and 22. You're graduate assistant at college, and you're 5 or 10 minutes away from your grandmother. You get to have a relationship with your grandmother as an adult as opposed to what you had when you were a kid. So it was, I taught 2 mornings a week. So then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was over at my grandmother's house, either cooking dinner or taking her out to dinner. And yes, I was cooking. Like I was, and like I'm like, no, you took care of me. I'm like, either you as a grandmother, you let me cook, or I'm taking you out to eat. It's one of the two. I've got a stipend I'm getting from school. I'm good. But it's us. And my students understood. I told them that you got on Tuesday and Thursday to talk to me, until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 3:01 a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Guess what? If you call them, I'm not picking up the phone. Like, it's time for you to be. You got me grown. We in college now. I respect your time. You respect mine. That's how that was. And they said they quickly learned that I was serious about it. Because at that time, that was grandmother's time.
Yeah.
That was it. And that was that for. I was there for 2 years. And then I moved into a house in her town shortly after I graduated. And so we were seeing each other like every day. At the end of the week, every day. Go to work, swing over to my grandmother's house, see what she was doing, check on her, and then go home.
Okay. Okay, the next poem is Smoky Hills.
Oh,
I said, what is the significance of Smoky Hills in your book? And where is Smoky Hills?
Yeah, Smoky Hills is southeastern Ohio. It's the foothills, beginning of the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. For Black history, there's such a big significance in that area where that's been lost to time, lost serious time. The first Black Baptist church west of the Appalachian Mountains is located there. Union Baptist Church. It's it's part of an area of that's known as Black Fork, Ohio. Black Fork, Ohio is significant because when the slaves were getting out with escaping slavery, that was the area that they went to. It was never on the map, but everybody knew where it was. It was all it was all around. It's like, yeah, seriously. And the part where my family lived and where Union Baptist Church is, was actually in a ravine. There was a pathway went down the ravine, up on the other side, and the church is going to be on your right. You keep on going, and it opens up to this massive hill with a deep valley. The plunge is a good 200 feet down that you can see for miles around. It's beautiful. The significance of it was the slave rustlers knew not to come that way. Because everybody, because my mom's side of the family was Native American and Black. So we're talking about hunters, bow and arrows, and guns, and as a slave rustler, you're going to give up your security by going off the main road into this ravine, and you're automatically into a deep place with guys, and you're going to be trying to get somebody that has family in the area, that knows what to do with weapons to make sure that if you go in there, you're not coming out. And then there's a church at the end of the road to bury you in, and no one will ever know this ever happened. So,
oh wow!
I mean, it was such a, and then you're looking at one of the Pattersons, which is actually one of the original 4 car companies in the United States, which was Black owned and Black established, was not that far from there. Their family was not that far from there at all. There's a lot of huge Black history in that area. And so the Smoky Hills was, when I was a kid, we went to the Smoky Mountains. And the Smoky Mountains is smoky because of the fact of the steam and the rain mist and all that with the mountain, right? But because of the topography of the land around those hills down in southern Ohio, the same effect that was with the mountains happened there.
Now, where is Smoky Hills at again?
Southeastern Ohio.
Okay.
And if you like Wendy's, you like KFC, and if there's a town, there's a little place called there's a restaurant chain around there called Bob Evans. You realize in food history, culinary history, there's a lot there as well, because Bob Evans' farm is not that far from there.
Okay.
Wendy's, Dave Thomas, is from that area as well. He studied under Colonel Sanders at his restaurant. So I'm saying, and that's all from that area as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
and then of course the big celebration this past year. There's a big celebration about the Juneteenth. However, the Emancipation Proclamation, which is based on the Juneteenth, was actually started celebrating in September, and that predating the events of Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
in Ohio. Ohio was already doing that, and Southern Ohio was when it was established after Abraham Lincoln had written the order, because the proclamation of the emancipation was in January, but the law had already been into effect. It had gone into effect months earlier, and Ohio was one of the states that initially got started in. And so they have been having celebrations in towns from Gallipolis, Ohio, all the way to Chillicothe, Ohio, and all the small towns in between. We go from September 22nd of every year, they have the celebration of the freedom of slavery, and it was in 1863.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they've been having celebrations ever since. 2 years before the Juneteenth celebration in Texas.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, the next is page 23 with lessons. And I want to know, did you play an instrument? And I see you mentored. I see you mentioned drums a lot in your poetry. So did you play the drums, or what's the significance? Because I see like 2 or 3 of your poems got the word drumming or drum in it.
Okay, I did play an instrument. I played several instruments when I was a kid: piano and saxophone. Actually, I still play saxophone, and I also was a part of an a cappella group, and we toured the country, and all of that. So I have a musically inclined family. So from my mom to everybody else. But the drums were. I've always loved drum cadences, but I think it makes it easier to know where the bend in the music is supposed to be. So with lessons, the illusion is the fact that the beating the drum, they beat the drum of life and living, playing within me notes that I never forgot. The drum beat of what my grandmother taught me that was etched in stone, because it's also allusion to the fact of the way people used to the Ten Commandments, when Moses had to rewrite them after he destroyed the tablets. Right, he had to take a hammer and beat the chisel into the stone to write the words into the stone. Well, you take the hammer and the chisel out and put a drum onto a snare, it's still the same movement, but it has to do with music as opposed to etching into things. But still, the beating of that drum, that lesson into that she poured into my life.
Gotcha. Okay. Next is the poem, A Message to a Friend.
Okay.
And I says, was that was an ode to your brother? Do you have any siblings? Where was your brother going off to college or military? And were you too close? Were y'all close as far as a relationship in age? How did that poem come about?
Well, it was actually, I don't have a brother. And when I wrote the poem, it was actually to a friend of mine who I was the one that was leaving. I was leaving to go to the University of Pittsburgh, so I was leaving the area. I had this friend. It was, and she was the first friend I made when I came to Houston. And she went through a lot being my friend down here in Houston. She was, because oddly enough, she was not the same race as me, white girl. And she and I had gone, whenever we were around each other, she got a lot of hate from other white folk for being my friend, but also several of our other black women that were in school had a hard time with her being my friend. Even though they didn't want to date me, they didn't want her to be around me even as a friend, for whatever reason that was. Mm-hmm. And so she and I, so we went through that, but then there were things that I went through personally separate from her, and she went through personally, and we both stood by each other's sides through everything that we had gone through. And so at this particular point, at the juncture that this poem was written, she had a child, and the man that was the father of the child had walked out on her and the child. The child was only like a couple months old.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being the friend that I was, and I'm fatherly inclined, and I was even then, that I was I had stepped up to the plate as a friend to be whatever type of be that at least a positive male figure, like because her dad was old, I could get onto the floor and wrestle with the little boy and play with the boy. In fact, that was the first time I had the experience of being somewhat of any type of a dad was with this child. And so I was going to, I knew I was going to miss this child after like, the child was like 6 or 7 months old. And here I am, I'm about to leave to go to Pittsburgh. And I'm leaving her. And we've been through so much that I put down exactly what I wrote and felt. And that's where that poem came from.
Oh, okay. Because I know you said your brother. I'm like, okay, is he talking about a friend?
Yeah, but I said, you know, when you go to page 26, in that stanza where I say, sister, friend, pal for all times, messages that will live in infamy, resounding in my memory, like the sound of church bell chimes, ever present, ever clear, the moments shared that bring people to and near. And so, in a way that was alluding to the fact she was Catholic. So not only I grew up Pentecostal charismatic, and this child was Catholic.
Oh wow!
So we're talking about opposite ends of spectrums all together.
Yes.
And this worked, and we're still friends to this day. So,
wow.
Yeah. You know, when it comes to friends, you know, I was blessed with a good one.
Good. Okay, next is the final moment. And I say in that one, is this about you or someone in your life moving to another chapter? And who was moving?
Oh, let me read this so I can get my memory straight on this. As the clock ticks down to the departure, an end to an era of this legendary affair, of one person to another, thoughts arrive in droves like no other. Life has its seasons. Each season has its moments. And with these moments, there are perfect times. However, there is always the reoccurring situation of the collision, when change from the last moments give way to the birth of the new. Yet as life goes by like a sprinter, I am possessed by your spirit as we enter into this transitional winter. The clock is still ticking. When light and darkness collide, the shadow is formed as a silent picture, providing the idea of what still is, without mentioning a word. Like the paparazzi, it follows wherever you go. And the shadow is, as the shadow is, so will the relationship become. And as the shadow is one with that which created it, so is the relationship of who we are. The clock has stopped, the final moment has arrived, it is time to go. Let this be the love of a strong man who will hold you close in the darkest of nights. It will keep you warm because of the grip so tight that you are always in my heart. There in the place with room enough for a mansion, with a fireplace filled with the heat of a relationship for a lifetime. Then, when the seeking has fallen for those in your life who never understand, and there is a want for someone to know and love you for who you are, I will be that man. After all, you have been my star. Oh, I think it had to do with a friend I was really close to. I said goodbye to it. There were significant people that I said goodbye to during the move from Pittsburgh to Houston. I believe that poem had to do with that. Because there was an organization I was a part of on campus, and there were several people that I was, not several, there was only a couple people that I was really close to. We established several organizations on the campus at University of Houston. And I know that she and I had gone out dates and such. And even though we weren't like boyfriend or girlfriend, we were still really, really close. And it was a tough thing to come to the moment that this move that I was going to be doing. like I still remember her face actually as I'm thinking about it. And she had tears coming down her eyes. This was like the last time that she was going to see me. We hadn't seen we wouldn't from that point on we wouldn't see each other again for like 10 years. I remember the tears coming down her face and all that type of thing. So I wrote this poem to comfort her. And so I wrote it and I gave her a copy, and now it's in the book.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now we're on chapter 2, Life Lessons, Genuine.
Oh, Lord. This poem almost got me in trouble. No, it did get me in trouble. Let me go ahead and read it so folks understand. Because I got some awards for it, for Editor's Choice, because I submitted it. There's only one that I actually submitted to for a competition that actually won something. I have approached you real. With the truth no less, I have approached you correct. But a question still remains, not from me, but from you. It is of interest with me what your intentions are, because sometimes your mind has the appearance of being afar. I told you I loved you from the bottom of my heart. Your actions say those feelings you also share, but your mouth is saying words that keep people unaware. Either way, it does not matter, because in time I will not be there. It is unwise to go after a love that I cannot win. Because of your indecision, one can see you are not genuine. Okay.
Yes, I love those last 2 sentences. Yes.
All right. Well, all right. So the reality is I wasn't writing about anybody in general. I was trying to write I'd been working on a narrative poem for several days, and I hit the wrong button on the computer I had at the time and deleted the whole thing. And so I was like, I'm mad. Because it was several pages long. We're talking about like 5 pages. I was trying to do something in the realm of like the Iliad, the Odyssey, kind of, but more modern style, because we're not thousands of years ago. It was current day, and I was just trying to do something. I was trying to stretch myself, and then after days of working on it, that's what happened. So then so in my feelings at the moment, I wrote that. And I had thought about it, but it wasn't on a whim. And there was a woman that I was seeing at the time, but I wasn't thinking about her. I mean, we were friends, but I was dating. Just when you're casually dating somebody, and you're not in love, but you're just like you're going out and trying to feel the person out. You know they're good. You know they're good people. Like, you're just trying to get a feel, and I'm pragmatic. I've never believed in just having a relationship for the sake of a relationship. We're at a certain level. We're at that certain level, and I never played games with anybody's heart, no woman's heart. Never did. I didn't believe in doing that. I would never wanted that done to me. So that whole thing. But I was not averse to, like, hey, I'm gonna go get some ice cream. You want to come? There we go. Right? Not a significant name, but I would advise any young guy. You don't have the job. Be going down to like a 5-star restaurant and paying all that. But if she can enjoy, if I had a daughter, said if y'all can enjoy a simple ice cream at Dairy Queen, what are you going to do? So like the simple stuff first. You can always have the other things later. And so in the poem, Genuine is the whole thing about that whole, in psychology, talk about front stage, backstage. You see it when we're away from everybody. Oh, baby, Queenie, you the woman. I love you. And I'm or like in front of everybody, all lovey-dovey and all up on each other. He's all, it's all good.
Yeah.
Everybody goes away. You're just alone, and you come in to sit down in the room, and he's sitting on the other side, makes no move to you. Majority of the time when no one's else around, you hard pressed to even getting a hello. Forget about getting an I love you. Right? And so the opposite of the person not being genuine. If you really are this way, if the person is actually that way with you, it should be that way all of the time, not just in special moments. Like we have friends and family. He brings you over to, he brings you over to his mom, or she brings the dude home to meet her dad and all this stuff like that, and it looks all sweet and kind and great, but the boyfriend actually doesn't pay any attention to her, or she's not really paying attention to that dude. I mean, why play games? Either you with me or let's say. And I think that with Genuine, the poem announces a mental health moment where it's like the light bulb finally goes off. The red flag's been waving, but finally you get the point. You and the person that's speaking out genuine, you're saying, I finally get it. This is the point. Either you going to change, or I'm going to pull this trigger for both of us, because you're not genuine with me. Like, be real or not. So that's where that is. And the thing is that reason why it's in life sessions, because that's after you've got to the place where you have begun the process of letting go, which you did in chapter 1, you start seeing you've taken that step back. You start seeing relationships with what they actually are. Some people only are not with you to be with you. They're here to come and get what they want to get from you. And then when you only get that, they're not with you anymore. Both men and women, this isn't just specific to one gender. Every man and woman has a story similar to that at some point in their life, right? And the reality is, if the person is really on your side, truly on your side, they love you, they're a committed family member or they're a committed friend, you can have a disagreement, you can say no, and guess what? They're still going to be there. I'm still not walking out the door with you. I'm with you for life. But if they walk away, like I said, and I'm saying about in a situation where you're not abusive, you've been committed. So if you've been abusive, and whoever's listening to this, if you've been abusive, you've been doing folk wrong, that's a whole other story. But if you have been every bit committed, respectful, loving, kind, whatever, right? And all that we've had is just a simple difference of opinion, or we have an argument, and that's all it took to you to not deal anymore, then you never really were with me to begin with. You know, I was like, they left us because they are not of us. For if they were of us, they never would have left.
True.
Guess what? Sometimes, it really is that plain. And when you take a step back, you take a look around you and assess all of the relationships. Who contacts you if you're not contacting them? If you're not, if you're the one that's always initiating, and that's really you're engaging, you're initiating, but it's like, so let's say like you just take a hiatus. You're not walked away from everybody. You just not being the one that engages. For a minute, take a step back. It's not gonna hurt anybody. Who tries to contact you when you're not trying to when you're not the one that's initiating? Or if you're in a relationship, how often does the person you're with engage you romantically? Instead of saying, it's because for me, there's always a difference between saying I love you and saying I love you too. If I say I love you, and you say you saying you love me too, is a response to me saying I love you. But if you just come up and just say I love you, kids do it all the time. They'll walk up to mom and dad and just say I love you, and that's the reason why we love it, because they just came up and just said it. Well, guess what? It doesn't change when you're an adult. It's not that it's mean if the person says I love you too, but if they're not just coming up to you and just saying I love you without you having to say it to them, take a good look at that. I've learned, and I've been through enough of my life. Don't dismiss anything. And that's what it looks like, and that's where genuine comes in. It's that kickoff point. Lesson number 1: there's some relationships around me that are not real, and I've just served you notice.
Okay. Well, I got to around page 50, and I start noticing something about your book. Your poems are aligned, either left or right. Why is that?
Kind of like a newspaper. Read all about it. You go to a newspaper and you're sitting there and you're like you go from one to the other, one side to the other. Yeah.
Okay, because I started sitting out like, wait a minute, why is it lined on this side on this page Then a couple pages later, it's a line on the right.
Uh-huh.
Is he trying? And I started flipping through. I said, well,
It makes you go from left to right.
I didn't think about that. I'm trying to figure out, like, why this book like this. And you got some right in the middle. Now, like, what are you trying?
It's seriously, you want to break up breaking up the monotony of like how it, because it's these little things, these little devices that keep your mind still engaged to what's going on. See, if you haven't noticed, the poems, if you read them by themselves, they can stand alone. But the book itself, you read it from beginning to end, there's an implicit story.
Yes.
Okay. The author that influenced me the most was Geoffrey Chaucer, Canterbury Tales. In the Canterbury Tales, the poems can stand alone. But if you read it from beginning to end, there's an implicit story in Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales is more implicit than explicit when it comes to the story of the book. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I can relate to that. I always liked Chaucer better than Shakespeare because of that. And I was like, and sometimes I read Shakespeare and I'm like, what are you talking about? I get lost in the minutia. But kind of with Chaucer, I know what this is about, and I know who's talking. I'm fine. Let's keep going. Like I like this.
Okay, let's see. I got two more poems I want to talk about. Playing Isaac.
You what?
Playing Isaac. Playing Isaac. I didn't understand the Isaac poem. Can we talk about that particular poem?
Okay.
I had to read it over and I still like, okay, what he trying to say in this poem?
Okay, well, let me just read it real quick so people can follow along.
Okay.
Playing Isaac, roaming in the desert with a leader, a father who loves me. All want to be him and do the great things that come alive when they close their eyes, in the nighttime, in their dreams. Take it away, all saints, attest to a faith which can move mountains. Having control, but ironically not, a decision which rests on their shoulders, to trust or not to trust. That is the question. Believing God is not running a scam. And to take him at his name. Yes, just to be an Abraham. However, there is always a tale untold, a place where a man trembles at being bold, being a soul who holds faith and dagger over an innocent on the rocks. For the placement of perfection, someone has to lie down. Hoping, elderly beloved, here's the spirit, not a glorified dream. Knowing of the past walk, my Father loves me. Anyone can lose their mind, so why lay down? There is no comfort in this. Above all else, to fall to obscurity and never to be known, and to never be known as the one who laid down, the one who did his son duty. Because in the heart of any man, there is a question, a notion of fear. Oh, Father, I hope you're right. A fear of death. If death is wrong and life is right, give me a dagger and let me trust in this way. At least I'll live. Because with the dagger, I feel I have control of my destiny. Let the rocks defer from my body because it hurts to lie down. Accepting possible fates, either way, and close my eyes in the moment of trial. I don't want to be the worst part of the error. Even if there is no glory, even if there is a glory to extract, sometimes nobody wants to play Isaac. Okay, let me explain. Let me put this out there like that. Okay, what it's addressing is the tale of Abraham and Isaac is actually two different. It's faith from two different perspectives. But the one perspective that's always been told is how much faith Abraham had in God. Saying we're going to go up there and we're both going to come back, and believing that they're trusting in God that he's trusting in God that I'm going to sacrifice my son, but God's going to make it all right, and all of that wonderful thing, and that is faith. However, let's take a step back and look at the broader picture of this. Abraham had a lot of mess ups leading up to this point. Okay, Ishmael. First of all, God had told Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a kid, right? Together, they were going to have a kid. Abraham up and out of because in those days back in the day, those people the slave's child could also be considered the child of the slave master. So Sarah got tired of waiting and told Abraham to go lay with Hagar, and then Ishmael shows up, right? And they get to a certain point, but then God had him show to his word. Sarah has Isaac, and now you got these two children, right? And they're playing with each other. They're half brothers, and we all know the family detail happened. And Abraham has to ultimately send Ishmael, Isaac's brother, and Ishmael's mom out into the desert to possibly die because the family issues that were caused up by this whole situation. We're talking about Abraham, who was before Pharaoh and said that Sarah was his sister. Just try that on for size. All right. His track record was not one of like every time he truly trusted God with every situation, right? So this man with all this track record of screw ups, and Isaac at this point being able to build an altar is old enough to know of the family secrets. I mean, you can't hide the fact that your brother is no longer there. And the reason why your brother's no longer there because of all the things that your dad had messed up on leading up to this point. And then knowing that and all that Isaac knew, he still was willing to obey his dad, build an altar, and lay down on that altar to the same dad that have been plenty of times where he said something was God and then it wasn't, or didn't obey God completely. And Isaac was willing to still give his dad a chance. Any other individual, if you take Abraham's track record, applied to anybody else that you know, even your dad, and your dad tells you, hey, Queenie, God told me that you're going to be a sacrifice. Are you really going to? We be like, if we're all going to be honest here, like, Dad, maybe I should pray about this one. I mean, and so the illusion of the fact is like, in the fact of then you look at with Abraham could have ultimately, because Abraham was the one that, even though it's faith, he could have decided based on his track record at the last moment when he has a dagger above Isaac, he just dropped the dagger, like, yeah, I ain't gonna do it. and so yes, I'm faced up to a point, but I'm just not gonna do it. And I know Isaac doesn't have nothing to worry about. And so it says it's faith, but faith with the control to back out anytime that you want to. Isaac, on the other hand, if Abraham was wrong, Isaac dies for nothing. He just got killed by his dad. And how many people, you think about your relationships, and nothing that extreme of die or not die. You think about just, being willing to be with somebody, still be with somebody after they've made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Okay, it'd be parents willing to still deal with the children, or husband and wife still willing to be together after pick a storm. Mm-hmm. All right, because and T.D. Jakes once said that people aren't really married until they actually go through something. You can go to the wedding, throw the rice. The pastor says that you say the cute little vows and say I do, and by the government standards, because you signed the documents, you had the ceremony, you're married. Mm-hmm. But how many times like something happens? Not even talking about an affair. Let's say like somebody loses a job or somebody gets seriously ill, and the spouse that's with them also is like, well, I can't really be with you through this, so bye. And the other spouse left hanging. Mm-hmm. All right, and then here's the trick. So then or even worse, okay, so then they leave and then they come back, right? And so the spouse that was left still willing to take them back and work with them anyway. Think about that for a moment, right? The rocks are a metaphor because rocks are not comfortable. You're on an altar. Altars are places where things are laid on to die. And you're lying on it. You built it to lay yourself down Hold on, son. Hold on. You're on it to you build it, but that's where you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
If things don't work out a certain way, this is it. How many people is that? See, now that's a whole other thing. Because that's, you see the scripture talks about greater love has no man that he lays his life down for a friend. It's one thing that when everything is cool and kosher and nice and like we see plenty of marriage, and we use marriage as the ultimate analogy. They love each other when everything is great. The money is coming in right. The house is beautiful. The kids are acting right. You can run through the daffodils and everybody's doing ballet. And then some type of conflict. When it looks like that, madly in love.
Mm-hmm.
But you live life long enough, storms are still going to come. So then what you going to do? Are you still going to be there? Are you going to, this is the altar now that you have built. The altar is built on all the things that you've experienced that now you got to lay down on. And are you willing to do that? That's why people would rather be in the poem. Isaac presents the notion that we would all rather be Abraham, to commit to something and then with the possibility of backing out, as opposed to being Isaac. I'm going to lay down on this and trust that I'm not going to die.
Okay.
Completely other type of faith.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. And then the last poem I want to talk about is My Rose.
Oh, okay.
So what I say about that is My Rose is one of my favorites so far. You open my heart and let us in on how much you, the person, wrote this. You opened up your heart and you were very transparent. And then I asked you, what is your favorite flower? My favorite flower is the rose, but it's not the red rose. It's the yellow rose. That's what color I love. So I would like to know about this poem. What do you think about this poem? Why did you write this poem? And what is your favorite flower? And then to end, the last question is, what was your favorite poem out of this whole book?
Okay. Well, let's go with that. Let's go with the. Let me work back. My favorite flower is the rose. There's a type of rose that's purple that I really, really like. I don't know the name of it, but it does. I saw it in the Phipps Conservatory in Pittsburgh. It was gorgeous. It was just a sight to be told.
You're gonna have to see me a picture of that, because my favorite color is purple, and I ain't never seen a purple rose.
I have. It has been done, and it looked great. I kid you not.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But of the regular roses that are out there, I do like the pink. Yellow is gorgeous. Texas love yellow roses. Red is always classic, but if I had to, but my mind goes back to that purple rose that I saw. It's something to be seen. And now the other question was, again, what was the
significance of the rose? And that what did I say? You open up your heart in that particular poem and let in. Talk more about that poem.
Okay. Well, My Rose is actually the first official poem ever.
Oh.
That's the one that I alluded to. The backstory and the fact that I was, and trying to. So the young lady never got this poem.
Oh, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's the I didn't give it to her. I don't think I did. Nope. In fact, when I wrote this poem, I had because there was a poetry project at school, and and I put together poems that I like from other authors, and it was required for me to write my own. And so decided I was going after love, and the only person that I love deeply, man, I love my mom and dad, but I love my dad too. So he was not the least bit splattered by this. I wrote the poem about my mom, and when I put the package together, I had a picture of my mom underneath this poem in the project that I submitted. And so I then, so that's the reason why it's like, well, I'm gonna write my own stuff. This was the poem that put it all. That's the one that started it all.
Okay. And so, what is your favorite poem out of Rewritten Lives?
Okay. Well, before I do that, let me. Because I want everyone to hear this one to my mom, as my rose. To some, it is a beautiful flower. In the spring, summer, and fall, it is a name known by all. The name is given to objects of beauty, but since beauty is within the eye of the one who beholds, to you I give this name of fame, because your beauty is in the sight of me. It is the world I want to show, the life of beauty that I've come to know. The life of beauty that comes from the rose I've found in you. So what I want to say is what I see. What a beautiful rose you are to me. So this is 1A. I mean, I love all my poems, but there's two that depart the rest. My Rose is one of them, and of course I alluded in this poem that beauty's in the eye of the one. Everyone has their own idea of who he is, and so for mine, I love my mom's heart, and she is a beautiful woman. And it's very special to me. The poem that really has my heart, besides my rose, is the one that actually has been rather popular. I've been part of the prison ministry down here at the Fountain of Praise, and the poem that I at the end of the book is called "A Means to an End." It's the summation poem at the end of the book. Now the completion of testings. All that is to have been shared has gone round like show and tell. Growing, going on to a new life. Nothing is given for captivity in the hearts of men. The turns of life give more views than a movie, but there is more than meets the eye. For as much as I am here, time means everything. However, like the curves of a road, an opinion depends on the view. Sight beyond sight, looking above the surroundings, happenstance never exists. All situations are for a reason, and the connections are seen. Looking top down shows what appears harsh is not really mean. The testing of faith develops patience, and patience must have its perfect work in order for maturation and completion, so in all things there is no lack. There is a light which overcomes the darkness, where all things come together for those serving the Lord and are called by his purpose. What he places together, nobody can pull asunder, no, not one. After all, what he begins, he ends. And the purpose of the poem is that, it goes on with the cycle of the change. And and in the poem, I talk about the fact of, I use a term where the book, the scripture talks about the fact, but guys join together, no one pull asunder. And so that's used in wedding ceremonies all the time. But in the scripture, there was no wedding that it was tied to. And I've in the prison ministry, I've discussed it with especially one of the women that I've gone to in the prison ministry, is about the fact that God put you together. So nothing that you're dealing with is going to pull you asunder. You will make it through. And so the scripture doesn't just apply to marriages, it applies to you, the individual who God made. So that's the reason why I love that poem. It reassures the change, and that everything has a purpose. Everything you went through has a purpose. And that's what the poem alludes to. Now you come to the end of the cycle, at the end of this part of the lesson, and then you move on. It's time to move on to something else.
Okay. Well, that's the end of the interview, but I have a few more things up under my sleeve. I have what I call fun questions, a little game I play at the end.
Okay.
Answer some fun questions for me.
Well, let me just put one thing out there for you. Guess what? At some point within the next month, between now and August, the second book in the series will be out, called Take a Walk with Me.
Okay. Fun questions. We're going to get back to, I want to throw this in there. But go ahead. Let me go ahead and let you talk about the next book and where can they find you on Facebook? How can they contact you to get this and other books that you are going to be writing? And then tell us about the second book. This. Go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and do that now.
Okay. Well, you can reach me directly on Rewritten Lives Facebook page. That's where emails and everything come through to me, and we can talk directly. And the book Rewritten Lives can be purchased on Amazon.com and rewrittenlives.com, and paperback, hardback, and ebook. And a special announcement about this, though, is because Rewritten Lives was put out by me. However, one of the critics of the book, H.D. Campbell, has signed me under his label, H.D. Campbell Productions, under his publishing company. So for the first time, I'm now underneath a commercial publisher. And as a result, Take a Walk with Me will be the first book to be released. It's the second book in the series, but first book to be released underneath the commercial publisher. And Rewritten Lives will then be reissued under H.D. Campbell Productions as well. So it'll be a third edition of the book. But both will be. But you can get Rewritten Lives right now. The website for Take a Walk with Me has not been established just yet. We're still finalizing the cover and all that. But when that happens, you'll know about it. I'll send you a message and all that. But Rewritten Lives is available right now directly on rewrittenlives.com.
Okay.
And then you can follow up. I got other work that I put out there on Facebook under Rewritten Lives, the Facebook page.
Okay. Anything you would like to add? Anything else before we go?
I'm glad that you had me on the program. I do appreciate that, Queenie. It's been a real great pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, you ready for these questions?
Yes.
Number 1, what would you say to Maya Angelou today if she was alive?
Thank you. Thank you for willing to be different. And thank you for willing to be transparent. Instead of trying to hide your life underneath a blanket, act like part of your life didn't exist, you put it all out there. It's like, hey, this is who I am. Which then for some, it was empowering, because if you can do it, then so can I. Because people are gonna like, because it makes you that whole question: do I want people to like me because of the mask, or how I really am? And she lived mask free. So thank you.
Okay. Number 2, what advice would you ask Langston Hughes?
How were you able? You were a unique brother. You were a unique brother in a time when it was society wanted brothers to be non-unique, homogenized. You were the flavor, and willing to be eloquent and educated, and presented that at all times. How'd you find your comfort zone with that, to be amongst our people but not feeling the push to be like everybody else.
Wow. Wow. All right. Favorite snack when you wrote this book?
Pancakes.
What? What did you say?
Pancakes. That's a snack that's like, look. He said, my first
Jamal, that's Jamal. Pancakes.
Hey, yes, pancakes.
So I looked over there because he over there. He wants to be a writer. He writes books. He's on Wattpad right now writing a book, typing out a book. He loves to draw, but he loves himself some pancakes.
Well, let me tell Jamal this. I figured out how to make my own McGriddle cakes. You know, because McDonald's does the McGriddle cakes, which is really just pancakes with syrup on the inside of them, right? I'm a healthy size individual. Those little cakes are gonna do nothing for me. So I need a pancake. So I had to sit there and do some experimentation on my own, and like said, how do I balance the liquid of the syrup with the other liquid in the pancake? It was trial and error, but I perfected it. And when I was putting it together, I just was like, yum. There's so many things you can do with a pancake, but pancakes.
Wow. Okay. Favorite cologne?
Wow. I like Brute. I have to say something simple.
Okay. Favorite scripture?
The entire chapter 20 of Psalm 27. All of it. Especially I like the line where I stood upon a rock and all my enemies stumbled and fell. I love that poem. It was a poem, actually. I love it.
Favorite restaurant?
Oh, Lord. My. It closed for right now. Because they're looking for a new location. It was a place called Sammy's Wild Game down here in Houston. Mm-hmm. It was a dive, and I don't know if y'all you in the Carolinas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all do the whole wild game thing. But we do.
Like what? Like what, for instance?
Like deer, bison, wild boar.
I work in a school that's very rural, and kids be bringing me stuff they done killed. Let me taste this, and I taste some deer meat, and I'm like, no.
Let's say it this way. Here's the thing. I like to say, but that's the reason why I say not everybody. There's some things that I like that I can only get at a spot that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, because we all got that friend or family member that swears that they can cook, and they will burn water.
Yeah.
And if I like a certain dish, I don't want you touching what I like. Let me see you make mac and cheese first. Let me see you make mashed potatoes. Yeah. That's simple. You mash the potatoes, or you put it in the pressure cooker, let it get soft, mash the potatoes, and then cream and butter or whatever. Let's see you do that first before you get over here.
Yeah.
I really like to grab a hold of. Okay? So I like Sammy's. If you were to come down to Houston and this place was open, I'm like, let's go to Sammy's Wild Game. Love that. Around my neighborhood, I would say that I like Empire Pizza. That's really good because they actually, it's not like Domino's. It's not like, so they make a lobster bisque that, wow. It's a pizza place that makes a lobster bisque that you'll hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They're that good.
Wow. Yeah. And the last question is, name 5 adjectives to describe yourself.
Okay. Loyal, dependable.
1, 2.
Okay, loyal, dependable. Honest.
3.
Transparent.
4.
and engaging.
Engaging. 5. All right. Elliot, thank you for your time, for your craft, for being transparent. I really enjoyed this interview. I'm waiting on book 2 and 3 so we can do another interview. I really enjoyed Rewritten Lives. I will be doing my review sometime this week, and I'll be getting that to you before I go live.
Okay.
But thank you. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. I'm your literary ambassador. Happy reading. Good night.